Hey,
Hey,
What
how's it
you
going?
doing?
Easy.
Oh, just sitting in the same room as
yep,
Frank,
just hanging
apparently.
out. We were in the same room, Matt and I.
Prepare yourself. This is the Bottom Dead Center Show, presented by OSMT.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back. Bottom Dead Center Show here on the Old School Monster Trucks YouTube channel. It feels really freaking good to say that, boys. It's been a hot minute since we've gotten together to record, and based on the hate mail I'm getting in my inboxes and in the comments and the mentions, people are pissed off we're not making shows actively right now. So I guess it feels good to be wanted. What do you guys think?
Yeah, man, I think so. It's nice that this has been such a, I don't know if smooth sailing is the right word, because the joke
Right.
is we always find something that gets messed up, but it's certainly been well received. I know at some shows I've been at over the past year or so, random people come up and say, man, I love that show that you guys are doing. It's good. It's nice to just kind of sit around and shoot the bull with you guys, but it also is nice to preserve some of these stories that people should hear about, like you're always saying.
And ladies and
Oh, for
gentlemen,
sure.
if you're seeing him on camera for the very first time in 3 seasons of Bottom Dead Center, he has replaced our overhead CAD drawing of a toilet, as Jim Kramer called it. We have live and in the flesh Frank Krummel, buddy. It's good to see you.
Oh
Literally.
man, it's glad to be back. I've joined the close to current generation of technology now. I got a new phone. Things are looking up right now, so I'm catching up to everybody. I was probably about 6 to 7 years behind, but now I'm probably 6 to 8 months behind. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
I'm impressed that BlackBerry Palm Pilots have that good of a camera resolution on them, Frank.
Yes, and I'm using the what do they call that?
The
What's the little
trackball?
stick you use? Yeah.
Oh, no, a stylus. You got a
Yeah,
stylus.
the
Yeah, got
stylus.
it. All
Yes,
right.
it's very nice, classy, professional.
It's
Yeah.
great for coding
Upgrade from the
HTML when
jitterbug.
you're on the go.
Yes.
Well, hey, we've got man, have we got a ton in store for everybody this season? I guess we'll start by kind of filling everybody in on what we've been up to in this quote unquote off season. But the truth is, we had a fantastic November, December, didn't we, guys? I mean, we had the battle bracket on the Old School Monster Trucks Instagram channel with Virginia Giant being crowned the coolest monster truck in history. We might have to do a battle bracket revisited this year. There was, controversy on who was actually the coolest. So, we might shake the brackets up and do something different. But we had Jim and Julie Kramer on, not once, not twice, thrice, to finish out the year, which was pretty amazing. That bench racing and bullshitting episode we had, probably my favorite episode we've done. I mean, all of us it was like a house party on Zoom, so that was pretty cool. And then on a personal note, finishing the year off with Arrowhead 1992 Medium Raw on the YouTube channel here. Of course, that's like, how fortunate can you be to have footage from your favorite childhood show that you ever attended, right? So sharing that with everybody was super special. I did the cheesy World Series home video intro voiceover to get you hyped up about how cool it was going to shows at Arrowhead as a kid. And man, I don't know about you guys. I had a super busy holiday season and then right into a busy January. And OSMT work hasn't stopped. We've been stacking up medium raw episodes. In fact, you're hearing it for the first time right here tonight. I've not published this anywhere. Now I have to remind myself to not publish it anywhere. Tell everybody's had a chance to hear it on here. Every episode of footage drops for season 3 on the Old School Monster Trucks YouTube channel this year. So that's probably going to run from about mid-March till, let's say, June. That'll be about the season 3 window. All medium raw episodes, no tough cuts. We'll have one prime sneaking in there, but as far as show footage goes, it's going to be all medium raw, and we've got footage from Jim Oldacre. We got footage from Mike Rex of the T-Rex monster truck. Like, I've got some building footage that a building was kind enough to share with us. Like, we have some killer stuff. And of course, today, as this Dead Center episode is dropping, tonight on the Old School Monster Trucks YouTube channel, Anaheim 1987, both days, day 1 and day 2, US Hot Rod at the Big A is going to be dropping, and I have stitched together every possible angle that I could get my hands on of footage from that show to try and make the most complete document of what that weekend was. So, man, that's kind of what's kept me going in the monster truck realm the last couple months, boys. But Looker, what have you been up to? Have you gotten to do any shows yet? I know you've certainly got one on the radar coming up as well, I think. But what's trucking been like for you the last couple months?
Yeah, I was going to say, had one, and I got one coming up. 2 different shows and 2 different capacities that I was going to be at them. A few weeks ago, I was down in Pensacola, Florida, with the All-Star crew, but I was helping Elliot and Athena with the 2 trucks there, the High Tide and Little Miss Madness trucks, kind of wrenching on them. I use that term lightly because although I was a auto mechanic for a while, not a monster truck mechanic, so I can use wrenches, but I'm not necessarily the guy that you're gonna want to troubleshoot your stuff. But it was fun to go down there, even if it was in the mid 30s in Florida, which if you come from the Northeast, you don't really expect that, but
that's
whatever.
why they call that circle
show.
track race the Snowball Derby down there, huh?
Yeah, I think so. It was an outdoor show, so there was no getting away from the cold and the wind, but that's what happens. It was still a good weekend. That's a great group of guys and girls out there.
Did you fix anything with a skid steer? Because I know you're handy on a skid steer, but as a crew guy, did you find any use for a skid steer?
Well, of course, because sometimes you got to push the trucks into the trailer and pull them out. So, yeah, I actually did use the loader a few times. So
nice.
I guess that wasn't a total waste down there. And then next weekend, the 14th, we're at the famed Cajun Dome in Lafayette, Louisiana, down in Iceman territory for a Manson show, the toughest tour. It's just one show, which on the production side of things makes it really nice. Of course, you want those weekends where you sell out 3-4 shows. It's kind of cool, but also when you have a weekend with one show, it's kind of nice as well. So that Cajun Dome is always a good place. There's always great food in that area, which I don't get down there that often, but it's always a good time down there. I've been there with Monster Jam. I've been there with Toughest a few times, and I'm looking forward to it. That's next weekend. Anyone down in that area, make sure to catch it the 14th. So yeah, otherwise just been plugging along at home, hospital duty, dad duty, son duty, all those good things. So.
Well, Frank, what about you? I need an update on Frank tries hot dogs from every arena on the Hot Wheels tour. We know you weren't able to film, Guy Fieri style reviews, but give us your best wiener update. What are you finding out there?
Well, this probably won't surprise you, Kyle, but I've kind of maybe fell behind on that. I haven't exactly kept up with it. It was a great concept. I mean, beautiful idea. But once we got rolling with the trucks, because we had our last show was December 14th last year, and then we had 2 weeks with Christmas in between there, and then we had to hit the road again right out of the gate, and we've been going full steam ever since. So I kind of, I'm going to try to work on that now that I have this new technology available to me, known as the phone, which most people take for granted. I didn't, but now I have the most current, up-to-date kind of thing you can have. So I'm going to try to do better with that stuff. But no, it's been a good year so far for us. Both trucks are running strong. DJ Bolt's doing an outstanding job in Bone Shaker in his second year. After the first year, only driven a monster truck one time before he came into Hot Wheels full steam ahead. He's outstanding. He's a pea in a pod. He is a natural, and I cannot wait to watch this young guy's career unfold for the next 20 years. I can't wait to watch him from the seats at some point. But the old man here,
dog.
Absolutely. But the old man here is trying to keep up, and we're both trucks, both the Monster Trucks Limited trucks are running strong. Have 2 new bullets in the trucks for this year from Richard Midget. The trucks are super dependable. Been running great, having a great time with everybody on our tour. You know, the Holmans, the Bigfoot guys. I mean, it's really a great situation, and to have that kind of camaraderie that we have on our tour. Everybody gets along. Everybody sticks around to help everybody. You know, if somebody doesn't have something, Kyle, you guys both know this. Everybody's trying to. Nobody wants anybody to miss anything. So it's that way with us on our tour, and you know, we're moving forward here. Rockford, Illinois, and then a week off, and then Corpus Christi, Texas, and Charlottesville, Virginia. You know, so we got 40 weekends, and we're wide open into it, and I can't believe it's March already. You know, it blows my mind. It feels like it was just Christmas. We were just at our last show, you know, in Texas. So it's like, it's crazy how time, you guys know, when you do this for a living, time flies by completely. But no, we're everything's going really well, and I just couldn't be happier with our situation, and everything's smooth.
You know, I want to bring up DJ Bolts again. So I haven't had the chance to meet him or see him drive in person, but obviously any kind of, you know, flattery from a guy of your, you know, experience and standing in the industry is worth quite a lot. But what excites me about him is that I haven't seen him, because there's, you know, there's definitely some personalities out there that are doing some driving here and there or whatever, and they've already hyped themselves up maybe in their own mind or on social media as a bit of a celebrity, where it seems like DJ's just kind of quietly going about his business and building himself, you know, potentially a really successful driving career if that's what he wants to do. And that's what's cool is guys like him, you know, or Eric that drives for Bigfoot, you know, there's obviously a ton of, I don't want to say raw talent because they're already refining it, but there's a reservoir of talent, and none of us know how deep that reservoir is. We just know it is deep, and they can do that if they want, or they can go do something else if they want. Like, they have that power because they're talented. You know, they're probably never going to have a hard time finding a ride because they're good guys and they can drive.
Well, you're right. You're dead on, Kyle. It's the thing about DJ is he's 23, 24 years old. So he, started from Virginia Beach, right there by the home base of Stone Crusher, Monster Trucks Limited. So he was a fan of Stone Crusher and Steve Sims since he was a little kid. You know, he'd seen me run at the beach, driving Ninja Turtle, at the Hampton Coliseum, driving Grinder and whatever other trucks I've driven there, and to be a teammate with him, and also too, I want to say he did it the right way. He just went up to Steve Sims when he was 16, 17 years old and said, "Hey, you guys need help. I want to be a part of Monster Trucks, and I'll do whatever I can." So he was actually a crew guy for a couple years with Tommy Powers, the late Tommy Powers, who was a very, legendary crew chief in the Monster Truck business, was with the Gravedigger team and Monster Jam for a while, and then came back to Steve Sims and helped build this operation to what it is now, because these trucks and our operation would not be what it is without Tommy and Bobby Powers. So I have to say that, first of all, because this operation is what it is because of Steve Sims, Tommy Powers, and Bobby Powers. So with that being said, now you have DJ Bolts, who comes in, who crewed under Tommy Powers, and now this last year or so came in as a driver because he expressed interest in wanting to drive. So Steve Sims was like, heck yeah, let's do it. And DJ, I've known DJ since I started here with Steve Sims. Great kid. He listens, very respectful. And that's hard to find these days. You know, guys that respect the old guard and the old school way of thinking, and guys that have been around. And I don't pretend to know everything about these trucks. Make that very obvious. But there are certain things that just fail all the time. That if this does this, this is what it is. And guys that will listen to you on that, I have 100% respect for him. So, and he's one of those. And he's also come to me about, because hitting cars and car van stacks and stuff. He'll come to me because, what do you think? I go, hey, this car is crooked. Hit it this way. Do this. Do this. And I always told him, I go, I am never going to tell you anything I wouldn't do myself, because in my 20 plus years of driving these things, and Kyle, the time you spent driving these, you've hit hundreds of van stacks, thousands of car stacks. So over time, you learn how to read that kind of stuff. So I just tell him exactly the way I would do it, and I go, here's what you do. If do it this way, but if you don't think that's right, you do what you want to do. But he listens to everything, and that's something I can't explain more to people that want to get involved in this business. don't be afraid to work. Don't be afraid to listen and listen to the old guys. Like listen to the Jim Kohlers. Listen to these other guys that have done it and have been there and have done it in their sleep a million times. Just listen to them, and they're not going to guide you down the wrong road. I'm sure you dealt with that at Bigfoot and Hall Brothers too, Kyle.
Yeah. And I'll say this much too, like I think, the performance level that's expected and asked of you guys at Hot Wheels to deliver the kind of performance that Hot Wheels is tailoring their shows for is not too dissimilar from being able to, rip around a pasture at a Firestone store or a Ford dealer or a Dodge dealer doing a car crush, where you've got a little bit of space. Like you guys can run however you want on an arena floor setting because there's safety holds and things like that. When I would do a car crush at a Firestone store or something, obviously you don't have safety holds, so you run accordingly. But certainly, when you're a young guy trying to get some seat time, if there's room, yeah, you're going to do a little more than just pop and drop on the cars or something like that. And when you get weekend after weekend after weekend to go out and hit fresh cars every weekend, you learn to read cars, you know what I mean? And
Yes.
and I don't want to go, I don't want to go full Army Armstrong here and talk about different kinds of quarter panels on American versus Japanese made automobiles, Richard Leak. Like I don't want to do that, but there is something to understanding, like, is it a newer, mid-size front wheel drive car? Or is it an old rusted out Caddy or Lincoln, rear wheel drive car? Like knowing how things are going to lay over. And I know we're getting, mad. I'm starting to see blood flow in places here on Looker. We're talking about crush car types here. I know that kind of talks right up your alley, but you start to read those things. And, for a guy like DJ that's, still carving out his place and getting some seat time under him, being able to read the cars. And now you guys have to do it in the dark, and there's strobes and there's different kinds of light and stuff like that. I mean, this kid, if he went out and did a 4-wheel drive jamboree, like what you and I have driven at in the past, imagine racing at 1:30 on a sunny day in July, being able to see everything. I mean, lights on, holy cow, this is way easier.
Well, see, that's one thing I wanted to bring up too. He is learning all this in the dark, doing non-dirts. So I've told him, I go, you just keep doing what you're doing. If you can do this in the dark, in these arenas, you can do it anywhere. Because once he gets out, and because that's what we're really excited for, that show in Boise. It's going to be a stadium show, and the lights, it'll be a typical stadium show, and I cannot wait for the Monster Truck Limited team to get out there with the trucks that were Stone Crusher and Hooked, that are now Mega Rex and Bone Shaker. I cannot wait to get back out there and really show what these trucks can do. I mean, don't get me wrong, we love every second with the Hot Wheels group. It is so much fun, and the trucks are perfect for what we're doing, and they just perform amazing. So no complaints there, but it's going to be fun to get out, stretch the legs, and go to a place like Boise and really let it ride. And it's going to be fun, especially with the Holmans and the Bigfoot guys. It's going to be a great time, so we're looking forward to it. But like I said, DJ Bolts, he's one of those generational guys. I'm 100% convinced, just by being with him all the time, and his work ethic on the trucks, not afraid to get in there and do whatever he's got to do. Just a good kid. And man, those are hard to come by nowadays. So I'm glad we got one of them.
He spends more time making stories than he does telling them, is what you're saying, right?
Absolutely.
Attaboy. That's awesome. Well, as we kind of carve through our, roster of things here I wanted to cover tonight, and I'm going to pull up my old show notes here, not very suave and debonair of me, but, we do want to thank everybody that's followed us on YouTube and Instagram. Both of those platforms have continued to grow, even in our off season, which is pretty cool. I've been randomly, shit posting on Instagram, keeping something fun going once in a while. I dropped I don't know if you saw it, I dropped a little custom Tough Enough post today with a little Southwest inspired artwork that I was pretty stoked about how that turned out. It had me wanting to listen to synthwave music while I was designing it. But yeah, we want to thank everybody following us, and particularly on our Instagram page. We're almost becoming like a repository for people's childhood monster truck memories, with the number of people that are reaching out and sharing their photos. I mean, Ryan Caputo started it, shout out Empire State Monster Trucks. And then recently, Bobby Spage is a follower, and he shared some stuff. Our homeboy Moribund Media has been bringing the West Coast fire. You see all the Golden State stuff he's shared with us that we're posting in increments. And, Cale Putnam reached out this evening with some photos from, the Northeast. And I kind of hope this keeps inspiring people to share more of their childhood photo albums, because it doesn't really matter if the pictures are shitty or blurry or whatever. That's okay. Like there's a patina to these pictures. There's a memory and a story and something that's connecting these people to their childhoods. That is cooler in some respects than like an epic Steve Reyes photo that's like perfectly clear. So I think that stuff's definitely worth mentioning. A couple new items trickling in here and there on the OSMT Mart, but I got some new designs I'm working on that'll hopefully come out here during season 3. That'll be kind of fun. If you follow, and this is a great segue here, if you follow Gene Patterson, former Bigfoot, I'm sorry, Colt Cobra, former snakebite driver, on social media, Gene's been fighting the good fight here over the last several months, with a form of cancer that, he had literally in his brain, I guess is the best way I could put it. I'm not, Matt's the medical expert here, not me, but, and we've lost Frank. Oh, and he's back. Okay.
Oh, sorry, there it is.
No,
There
you're
it is.
just keeping bottom dead center has to stay on our 100% track record of not being 100% perfect technically. So that's okay. But so anyways, Gene's progressing through treatment. There's some experimental treatments that he's getting able to leverage to try and help him keep, kicking this thing's ass and going through chemo and radiation. But we're dropping some photos here into the show. We did some custom OSMT merch designs just for Gene. And if you think they're cool enough, you would want to buy one. I thank you for your kindness, but they're just for Gene. I designed a snakebite 1992 Arrowhead Stadium Racing Champion, like a trophy, basically, and put it on the back of the shirt with a de-identified snakebite, and with Gene's likeness, just because Gene's a Missourian like me, he's a Chiefs fan like me. Arrowhead's special to him, just like it is to me. I was at that show as a kid watching Gene race and win. And I thought, man, like, I can't think of anything more personal between the two of us probably than the fact we were in that building that night. And I got to meet him at the pit party and stuff like that. So did a commemorative race win shirt for Gene. And, I watched my mom, battle cancer, and friends have gone through it. And, hair loss is certainly a symptom that comes along with some of the treatments. So to make sure Gene keeps his lid warm, since he can't wear a snake mask all the time, we did a beanie hat for him as well with snakebite, in the OSMT/USA Motorsports logo on it. So, all of us here at the show, we wish Gene all the best. They, some really nice folks had a diecast and memorabilia auction on the Whatnot app, a couple weeks ago. And I definitely bid up on some stuff in there that I, wanted to help support Gene. And, I tell you what, it's right above me here on the wall. Hopefully you can see it if, depending on how I've had to crop the screen, but, I have like a bunch of Bigfoot Champions toys and stuff I got a long time ago, but, I was fortunate enough to bid on and win, another snakebite Bigfoot's Champion, 164th Hot Wheels, but Gene personalized it to both my daughters, signed it as Colt Cobra. And I told the girls, I said, well, you're never getting rid of this one. It's got your name on it. Like, that's pretty special. And they thought that was so cool. So can't say enough about Gene, his wife, Susan, supporting him, and all the monster truck fans, the industry, his former teammates at Bigfoot. You can tell how beloved Gene is. Everybody's just rallying around him. So everybody keeps sending those good vibes, the positive waves towards Gene as we see him through this fight. And Marty Garza as well too. It's kind of quiet coming out of that camp, and I don't have a personal connection to them, but I think we all recognize, Marty's importance and contributions to the sport. And so we're certainly wishing him well on his journey towards recovery, from some of the health struggles that he was battling with last year. And then, inevitably that certainly brings us to somebody that both of you guys were, very close to, in Frank's case, very familiar with, in both your cases. From Monster Jam, we lost Eric Schweikhard recently. And I mean, you guys got to tell the story, right? We talked about it before we got into the show. We were kind of warming up. You guys were giving me a little context because I never really got to meet Eric, but Frank kind of lead off for us. And, let's pay a little respect to Eric.
Absolutely. Eric Schweikhard is one of those guys that super knowledgeable, really smart, was a military man. A lot of people didn't know that, but because he never said anything about it. He was a military man. And got involved in motorsports at a really young age with his dad. They restored vehicles and did all that kind of stuff. They're big into Jeeps, and Eric was a mud racer and got into monster trucks. He lived in the Outer Banks area and went to work for Clear Channel or whatever it was at the time he got involved. And I first met him in probably 04, 03. He was crewing for the Escalade at that time with George. And I want to say it was Norm Miller driving Blue Thunder at the time. I was in power forward, and Rod Schmidt was in digger. And at the end of that year, the way things went, it was my first World Finals driving power forward. And the Gravedigger truck that I was paired up with, Rod Schmidt's truck, they had a show for it that the same weekend as World Finals. So my truck got dropped off in Las Vegas. They dropped the truck off, 4 tires, 4 shocks, transmission. A third member said, "Here you go." And I'm standing in the parking lot, and the first person over to me was Eric Schweikhard. And he goes, "Hey, what are you doing here, buddy?" I go, "Yeah, I'm here for the show, but I don't really have a team or a trailer to work out of." And he goes, "Hey, you come over with us." So I was with him and the Escalade. They put my truck right. They had 2 trucks next to the trailer. They put me in front of the rig. So it was a 3-truck team for that weekend. And that was I'd known Eric for a little bit before then, but that was my first real interaction with him. And it was unbelievable, and my parents came to that because my first World Finals. So my parents came to that, and Eric took them in like they were his family. And I never forgot that all the way, because we were paired up from that time all the way through 2000, the end of the 2010 year with Blue Thunder. So he was a part of the Donkey Kong era, the little part of my career, Donkey Kong. He was a part of the Blue Thunder, part of the Del Scorcho. I mean, he played a huge part in the way I ran those years. And Kyle, both you guys, Matt, from being on the crew side also, if you trust the guy working on the truck, it goes miles for what you will do in it. If you know that the belts are wrapped right, and the spindle bolts are tight, and you just know that truck is right and tight when you get in it. And the guy that's working on it tells you that it's good. And if you trust him, he looks you in the eye and says, "It's good, buddy, ride." That's what I did. And that's why I was able to get a lot of, victories and success in those years because, it sounds corny, sounds cliche, but a lot of it was because Eric Schweikhard, the work he put into the trucks and the trust I had in him, and the personal relationship we had went a long way too, because, when you have that, there's no bullshit. And I'm sorry for cussing, but there's no bullshit. Like if you trust the guy and you can have the conversations and you can get out of the truck and say, "It's doing this." And he tells you, "All right, I did this." And you trust, that he did it 100%. You get back in that thing and ride like nothing's wrong.
You don't have to worry about the guy trying to film a TikTok while he's hanging spare shocks on the truck or something.
Right. Oh,
Frank, did you mute yourself? Oh,
well, while Frank
let's go to Looker. Go to Looker.
Right.
Cut to Looker.
Right. All right. So while Frank's figuring that out, I met Eric for the first time a couple of years before my daughter was born. I wanted to wrench on trucks, and things changed after. But at the time, I was just trying to get myself out there. And I had a friend in Texas that knew Pablo, and he said, "Well, Pablo's going to be down in Corpus. Why don't you drive down there and get you hooked up with some people and see how the shows run, whatever." And I hooked up with Eric and John Seasock that weekend. They had it wasn't Batman, because John was actually wrenching on a truck instead of driving. I don't even remember what trucks we were working on, but I worked with Eric, and just the most welcoming guy ever. I drove down. It was a few-hour drive from where I was at, and he's like, "Oh yeah, crash in the hotel if you want." Just a gentle giant. Everyone says that about. He's a big dude, but very quiet, unassuming. Was not the type that was going to be in the limelight, but he was absolutely going to take care of business with the trucks during the show. And then when I worked for Monster Jam later on, I did a lot of international shows with him as a manager. Always the same dude, just very approachable, knew his stuff, just a guy that you wanted to be around. at the World Finals when it was in Vegas, he would be there running kill radio on the sidelines. Just a guy that you wanted to have around. And I know he touched so many people's lives, and a huge loss for monster trucks, especially anyone that was associated with Monster Jam that worked with him.
Frank, talking to you earlier when we were warming up, you impressed upon me, how much you learned from Eric mechanically, details on a truck. I think being able to turn wrenches on a monster truck is a different skill set than troubleshooting a monster truck, if that makes sense, right? Like, when somebody shows you how to take the spindle bolts out versus diagnosing a broken locker or an electrical issue with the rear steering or dead cell in a battery, things like that. It's a different thing. It sounds like he had it all. But what I want to ask you is, he obviously taught you mechanical things when you were younger, but do you find yourself as more of a mentor role now in your career and less of an up and comer? Do you find he taught you things without you even realizing it about just how to be a man in the sport, how to be a mentor, how to be a guiding hand versus someone needing guidance?
Well, what he really did is he taught me to, Jim Kohler did this also, and Scott Stevens did it, but I was more hands-on with Eric because I was actually driving the truck, so it made it easier when Eric was doing this stuff with Eric. We always looked for if the fans quit working, for example. Don't go look at the fan. Let's start in the cockpit of the truck. Let's start in the cab and check the fuses. Let's check the switch. Let's check all of the easy stuff before we go and dive into the fans and all that water pump, all that stuff. And 9 times out of 10, Kyle, that's all it is. It's a fuse or a relay or something stupid. And that's what Eric taught me. Always check the easy stuff first, because 9 times out of 10 with these things, that's what it is. Like if the rear steer quits, it's a ball switch. If the rear steer quits, it's a relay or a fuse. It's 9 times out of 10. It's not the pump. I mean, It's none of that kind, or the motor, So I learned that was in the core time I was with Eric. He always steered me towards, let's just check the easiest stuff right out of the gate. And 9 times out of 10, we're thinking, oh, great, we got this big problem. Next thing you get up there, you change your fuse, you change your relay, boom, problem fixed. Park it for pit party for the next day, ready to go. And that was instilled in me. And but I do have to share a funny story. Okay, so to kind of lighten the thing up, because the loss of Eric is huge. He was only 56 years old. Just such that's young by any standards nowadays. And so I was in Anaheim, where we were in Anaheim, and I'm out there in Blue Thunder, and the oil pressure light kept coming on after racing passes and all this and that. I'm like, oh, it's doing this, it's doing it. And I was a worrywart back in my younger days, man. I'd felt every shake and everything in the truck, and I'm like, man, it's doing this, doing this. So then I got back in the truck. It was semifinals or maybe final round. Got back in the truck, and I look up in there, and he had a Diet Coke sitting there on the Ron Francis box of the starter panel, and 1 cigarette. And I get up there, I go, what's this? He goes, Frank, you need to calm down, okay? He goes, everything's fine. And then he had electrical tape over all the gauges. Put electrical tape over all the covered all the gauges. And I got in the truck, and he goes, you need to calm down. Take a sip of the Diet Coke. And I go, Eric, I don't smoke. He goes, I know, but you might need to just calm you down. I'm like, and that's the kind of guy he was.
The old David Pearson smoke taped to the dash. All
right.
When
he was just always there to calm you down. And because I got wound up, man, back in my younger days, I'd get wound up if the truck wasn't doing something, if the truck was making funny noise or whatever. But now, I mean, for me now, I know those noises and the shakes don't mean nothing because they go away the next time you run it. So it's no big deal. But back then in 2010, a long time ago, I was worried, man. I'm driving Blue Thunder. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the semifinal, final round. Oh, geez. But Eric be like, Frank, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Just I put some up in the cab for you. Diet Coke and a smoke. You'll be fine. So no, that's the way he was. And man, I'll never forget him. And every time I get in the truck, I always think Easy and I'm glad to have some of the things that he taught me and he showed me. And like I said, he showed me them without even really knowing he was showing me them, but I retained it. And there's so many memories that I can't get into in this podcast that I had with him over the years. But like I said, it's a huge loss, but he was fighting the cancer, and man, it just it's one of those things, man. But now, I feel relief knowing that he's in a better place. He's up there with my dad and a bunch of other people we've lost, and they're scoping out the place, probably checking out all the improprieties and some of the things that are up there as far as the way the gates are made and the fences are lined up. They're seeing all the little impropriety, the mechanical problems that are up there. I guarantee my dad and Eric were spot on. If the gate into heaven was a little loose, they were both on that the minute Eric got up there. So
up there running a tape measure to make sure it's wide enough. It needs to be 13 foot wide.
Oh yeah, they're checking out all the connections and all the the shoddy craftsmanship that might be up there. That's the way my dad. And I also have to say too, and not to get too much on a tangent here, but Eric Schweikhard would always welcome my dad in with open arms at world finals and any event that my dad would come to, because my dad couldn't come to too many because where we lived and where we did shows. But whenever my parents would come to shows, Eric made my family feel completely welcome. My dad always had a crew shirt, was always on the floor helping with the trucks. And it was that relationship plus the relationship Eric and I had just tells you the kind of man Eric Schweikhard was. So I'll leave it at that.
Well said. Very well said. As we move out of that, one thing I want to joke with you about, Frank, and Sparkle Smash on my desk here reminds me of it, because it might be one of the only Monster Jam trucks apart from Bailey Circuit that I don't think you've driven. But my youngest daughter, Kaylin, said I had to have it on the desk for the show tonight. But she was playing the current Monster Jam video game on Xbox the other night. And I was sitting here editing a video, and the TV and stuff's over here, and she's playing, and she's like playing a different Monster Jam truck every whatever practice session, freestyle, whatever. And she's like, whoo, hands me the controller. She's like, I'm done. I played like 8 monster trucks tonight. And I said, you got to keep going if you want to catch up to old Frank. Like, Frank's driven all of them in this game plus some. Like,
yeah,
we haven't even made it to Donkey Kong or Blue Thunder yet, kid. Come on, step it up. And that's a compliment, very much a compliment. But Looker, I want to circle back to the topic of toughest monster trucks. So I finally got a chance to catch up in person with Brian Manson. Of course, we had him as a guest on the show in season 1, sort of the operational genius of toughest monster truck tour, also Monster Nation. I always want to call it Monster Nation because when I announced for Brian, all the shows were Monster Nation. It'll forever be Monster Nation. I miss the green and white, by the way. I did take the opportunity while having some beers, which, thankfully a couple Coors helped me get my opinions out, because otherwise I'm too afraid to share my opinions. But I said, a color refresh could be kind of cool. You know what I mean? And that there's so many webs wove together here, but Casper, Wyoming, Monster Truck Throwdown. Sorry, not Throwdown. Toughest Monster Truck Tour. Damn it. So many good independent shows we're affiliated with here. Excellent show. You're running at altitude, essentially mile high like Denver. And, Brian's crew it made me smile the whole show just watching how Brian runs a show. And he's so hands-on. I mean, he's out there after the pit party running the fire hose to water down the track where, he's a show whisperer. You know what I mean? Like, that guy he has been just a puppet master of how to run a well-oiled monster truck show with. He's got a lot bigger crew than we used to have, but everybody's got their place, and it still doesn't feel like too many people. I mean, everybody knows the drill. You really need to go to a toughest monster truck tour event if you've never been to one, and just, if there's 2 shows, frickin' go to both and pig out, have a good time, and watch the monster trucks on show 1. Get nerdy on show 2 and just watch how Brian and his crew run the show. I mean, it is a sort of ballet behind the scenes. Looker, you know what I'm talking about, man. Like, Brian runs a tight ship.
Yeah, and what you're saying about him running the show is he creates such a cohesive group. And we talked about this when we had him on. He creates such a cohesive group that nobody's running the show when the show's actually going on. Mm-hmm. Everyone's doing their own thing. And, Scott Heaton, who does announce for him now, does a great job, legendary announcer. He'll be calling the show. Every once in a while, he'll say, what was the score on that? Because we usually, whoever are on the sidelines, it'd be like me and Brian or Brian and Jeremy. We'd call out the scores. Sorry. But otherwise, everyone just does their own thing. There's no, okay, let's send the next truck. Basil in the pits knows the next truck's coming out. He knows who's coming out. He knows when the truck has to come out. You don't have to call RI test, except when he sends them for freestyle, I might say, just so we're all in the same RI lane. But yeah, everyone just does their own thing and it flows smoothly. And not to call out any other promoters, but I think as far as production value and competition, Toughest Monster Truck Tour is the best indoor arena first quarter show.
Yeah.
Again, not to dog anyone else. And Frank, like we've talked about, Hot Wheels is more, it's not competition really. I mean, it is competition, but that's not why you go there. But if you go to a Toughest, you're going to see these 6 trucks battle for blood every show. The tracks are insane. You're going to see 20, 30 foot of air sometimes in an arena. And they're well put together. They're safe. It really feels like early 2000s Monster Jam is the best way that I've heard it put, because it's got all of the cleanly, like the lines are crisp and clean. There's safety holds that look good. I love doing his shows. They're really a great product.
I think the aesthetic of Brian's shows, and I'd be remiss to not mention, Kelly Goldman as well. Obviously, Kelly has a huge role in that operation behind the scenes. And I got to see her, and we had a couple drinks in the hotel bar, and that was so cool because, like, Kelly was always the one picking us, flown in help goons back in the day from the airport, in the rental car. And I mean, we were sharing some laughs, and I mean, what a joy it was for me to, introduce my wife and kids to her. When the last time Kelly knew me, I had just started driving Bigfoot. I did a display in Chicagoland when her and her husband still lived up there, and they came out to the display and took me to lunch. And I mean, she doesn't mince words. She's no bullshit. She's very opinionated, all things I love. But she also doesn't have a bad bone in her body either. She's a truly, like, her moral compass is very calibrated, I would say. But back to the shows, the aesthetic of the shows, I think, is very informed by a late 90s, early 2000s Monster Jam aesthetic. Like you said, clean safety holds. The track's not overcrowded. There's not too much shit or anything like that. They haven't gone mid 2005 to 2012 with too much painting or anything like that. It's a clean aesthetic. The trucks run exceptionally hard. I mean, when you walk around the trucks prior to the pit party, and practically every truck has some kind of dirt or clay smashed or packed into the frame rails or the wheelie bars, and it's not even the first show of the weekend, you're like, oh, they brought that with them from Youngstown. All right, very cool. Those guys are running that stuff hard. Now, you talk about one-day shows like you're going to have in Lafayette, which will have already happened by the time this show drops, but Casper's historically, let's say in modern times, a one-day show. What I found really interesting is because it fell on Valentine's Day this year, which shout out to my wife, Robin, for letting us go 3 hours away to a monster truck show on Valentine's Day. I thought of that lady at the start of the U.S. Hot Rod home video, the Moto Rock home video. Like,
my husband said, what do you want for Valentine's Day? And I said, I'd like to go to the tractor pull because I've never been to one. So here we are, and it's fun.
My husband asked me what I wanted for Valentine's Day, and I said, I want to go to the tractor pull. So here we are, and it's fun. Like, it was, one of those deals. But I think, they had the show start early and end early. I think the show was over at like 4:30 in the afternoon. I mean, Brian texted me when they got back to the hotel. They'd already loaded the dirt, the cars, monster trucks, everything settled out of the building. He texted me at like 8. Hey, we're heading to the hotel bar to get dinner. See you there. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's how I want to end a Saturday in the monster truck business, is be at the hotel bar by 8. That's awesome. So, shout out to that whole crew. You will see, giving you a little peek behind the curtain here, you will see later in the season, we did a medium raw episode on the YouTube channel from Casper back in 1986, but we only did the first night. So what I've done is I've combined the first night that you've seen, hopefully, and the all-new second night that no one has seen yet, combine those into one show, along with some content we filmed while at Toughest Monster Truck Tour in Casper. And I raced in that building a couple times. I even went to a show in that building as a teenager, so I have a lot of roots to that building. And I was kind of explaining to you guys before the show started, the Casper Event Center, it's now called the Forward Wyoming Center, has been hosting a monster truck or mud bog or tractor pull or some kind of monster truck adjacent type event every year, essentially since 1982 when it opened. That is incredible. Like, we talk about Nassau Coliseum, we talk about the Big A in Anaheim. The Casper Event Center, while not as huge or noteworthy, let's say, as those two buildings, has still been the Intermountain region's most consistent, most frequently hosted, venue for events. I would say maybe the Metro Park Arena in Billings, Montana is probably the second place arena along the entire Front Range, I would say. So we hope everybody enjoys that. That'll be in a few weeks' time. But shout out to Brian, Kelly, their whole crew, Danny Moss. Everybody was super hospitable. Extra shout out to Danny for making a beer run from my hometown of Kansas City for me. He brought me some Kansas City Beer Co. lagers, which have been tasting mighty fine lately. So I appreciate that from Danny. But let's see, moving along through our. Oh, yes, of course. So we preview those medium raws a little bit, but like I told everybody earlier, the three of us, we've been interviewing people in our off season for part of our interview content, historical pieces and stuff we'll be bringing. And I think we can spill a little bit of the beans right here, but between Matt and I and Frank and everybody, we had the pleasure of interviewing the voice, as I call him, of USA Motorsports back in the day, Mr. Dave Bennett. Matt, give us just a little tiny preview of that, because that had to be one of the funniest, just fun interviews I think we've ever gotten to do.
I think I could sum up that interview, and you can't really sum it up in one, sentence, but if you want to sum up with how interesting and cool his deal with monster trucks was, is that the entire reason that the Monster Mania, the voice of Monster Mania, was there is because he made a mother-in-law joke at an event, and the owner of the event was not very happy about it.
Yep.
There were so many things in that chat that we had with Dave that just blew my mind and made me crack up, dying, laughing. Just a lot of connections that he had to the industry that I had never had a clue of, honestly.
His Southern Oklahoma drawl has to be one of the most underrated and iconic sounding voices in monster truck history. It's a crime that he was never calling TV broadcasts. Because Army's voice is incredible, of course, but Dave's voice, as evidenced on the Monster Mania VHS you referenced, I mean, just hearing him say things like 4-wheel drive pickup pulling, the sport of pickup pulling, like, he was not, I don't know how to put it, like, he's not a technical guy. He was just very warm and funny and vibrant, and his choice of words sometimes seemed kind of ambiguous or inaccurate even maybe, but just a blast, man. Like, he made shows fun. I remember him announcing events I went to as a kid as a USA patron. So what's exciting about that is a number of our medium raw releases this year are USA Motorsports. More of our guests that we have planned for this season are part of the USA Motorsports story. So we're going to be going into a lot of USA Motorsports this year. But, Frank, turning to you, we also kind of have a wild card guest coming up this season in the form of Mike Rex of, Minnesota, of the T-Rex monster truck. And that interview with him and his, associate / fan / the glue that got us all together, Mitch Drops, the interview with those guys, that could have been the funniest interview we've ever done too. I mean, that was incredible. But then hearing Mike pour his heart out over a couple of the heavy stories that he had to share and the regrets that he had. I mean, we ran the whole spectrum of emotions, I feel like.
Oh, we totally. And I, we all knew who Doug Spanier was with the Barely Tame and Master Disaster. Mm-hmm. But there's a little patch of history that the T-Rex never really got a lot of notoriety after it, after he bought it from Doug. So there was a little, as you know, Kyle, there was a little space of time where the truck kind of disappeared and it wasn't in the mainstream, but it actually was running a lot. And actually hearing Mike talk about the stories and how they tried to do what they were doing and what I got out of the whole thing. And I think obviously Mike Reck is an outstanding individual. That I got that because just his honesty and his candor blew my mind. Like just he spilled his guts. And but what we also learned about that is that during that is Doug Spanier was an outstanding guy. Just I got that out of between the Cookie Monster, which was the Master Disaster, and then when T-Rex turned in Barely Tame turned into T-Rex. Doug Spanier seemed like he didn't want to make that transition to tube chassis trucks, and he picked his time to get out of the business, which is very smart because a lot of guys don't know the time when it's time to get out, as far as being a truck owner. Like if they don't want to make that next leap, the next generation of truck. And Doug was smart about it. He's like, okay, I put my time in. I was here in the mid 80s all the way through here. I'm good. I'm done. But I'll help you guys out. And, we learned Mike Reck is an outstanding guy. And we also learned that Doug Spanier should be given more credit for what he did for this business, because I think, Kyle, you and I talked about this. Doug Spanier was ahead of his time with a 2-truck team. He had blue Ford and a red Chevrolet, and they ran together. I mean, it's genius. Going back to that era when he did it, I think it was very smart. But then also the way he gracefully got out of the business, but sold it to people that he trusted and knew they were a part of his operation at some point, I think is very commendable in the way it just shows the class of Doug Spanier. And I think there needs to be more dug into about Doug Spanier, because I think he's one of the unrecognized, but as far as I'm concerned, I grew up watching Master Disaster and Barely Tame. I think he was ahead of his time. And the older I get and look back at what he was doing when he was doing it, I think it's very commendable.
Well, and I'll cut the spoilers off here, but I just have to drop this in to drive people crazy. How about his whole story starting about Little Barefoot broke down on the side of the road? Like,
I was just thinking of that when you were talking
cinematic.
About it.
Like, get Scorsese to film it. You know what I mean? Frame it up.
Yeah.
Like, spectacular.
You couldn't have queued it up better. Like you couldn't have plotted it better to make a movie. Could not be better.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I get Jeff Bezos rich, I can assure you guys I will leverage all available technology to recreate our interviews in like dramatized form. You know what I mean? Like one of those cheesy History Channel documentaries where they reenact things during the storytelling. We'll try and bring Little Barefoot back from the grave to reenact that. But moving along to another lighthearted segment. So we. This segment of the show was forgone for a lot of our final episodes of last year just for time constraints, but I'm happy to report, despite my wife's best efforts, the bag from Dick's persists. It is alive, it is well, and it floweth over this episode, and we have our first 2-time bag from Dick's champ returning, and that's the inimitable Chris Roy. And he found an entirely new reason to shit on somebody, and he picked like an innocent bystander this time. So Looker, the truck's called Rat Attack, right? It's an early 60s Corvette body truck. I believe the gentleman that owns and drives it is name's Jacob Ladwig, if I'm getting that right.
That's right. That's correct.
It used to be a Sam Sturgis truck back in the day. Its architecture is unique, let's say.
Yes.
But it looks like he's a nice dude by all accounts. Runs the truck well. Good looking truck. He's out on the East Coast running all-star shows, I think, or at least did some prior to the recording. So help us understand, because I know you were in the conversation with me and we were both just as baffled. What in the hell was Chris Roy's beef with this guy's truck?
So I also need to say, me and Elliot were talking about this when I was in Pensacola. Jacob is not only a great driver, because if you've ever seen him do 2-wheel moves with that Rat Attack, I mean, the control and the headspace of where the truck is, just perfect. He's one of the last few like true Gary Porter independent type guys. Like it's him and his wife that run up and down the road, does everything himself, owns the truck. Also a guy that will help anybody out, knows how to do everything. Anyways, he's just one of those great guys. So not just an innocent bystander, but like one of the best guys in the industry the truck's cool. It's unique, like you said. It's the only Corvette truck like that.
Not to interrupt, but
somebody-
we've got photos and videos that we're dropping in here as the folks are watching. It can run. It looks fucking cool. Like, I don't even like Corvettes, but it very identifiably looks like it's a I liked Vet King when it was around in the early 2000s, but I remember being a pissed off kid saying, that doesn't look enough like a Corvette.
A Corvette, right?
Yeah, his Rat Attack looks enough like a Corvette, point made, you know?
No, it's literally a Pro Mod Corvette body that's set on a monster truck, and the cage is fit to that body. But anyways, so someone made a post on a forum on Facebook about how cool the truck was. Absolutely. Like almost nobody is going to dispute that. But then because Chris Roy had a janky truck that barely did anything cool, I don't know if it ever did anything cool.
Two-wheel drive.
Was the punch. Yeah, it's been the punchline to a lot of wow, look at this thing. Type jokes. Chris Roy felt the need to get on that post and talk about how, I had the Corvette and it's not as cool as mine, or whatever he said. It was just like, are you kidding me right now? This is like, this would be like Danica Patrick if the timelines were matched up. This would be like Danica Patrick talking about how Dale Earnhardt really wasn't all that great.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a fair parallel.
Yeah.
Or
except
Joe
Chris
Sylvester
never made it to the
calling him
level that Danica did.
Or
Sorry.
Joe Sylvester calling him the Dale Earnhardt of monster trucks, calling himself the Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. I will say Joe's always had nice equipment and runs hard, at least in 4-wheel drive. I mean, the truck we're talking about with Chris Roy here, I mean, it's had a Mustang body on it, which was abhorrent looking. And it had this Corvette body, as he called it, which it was a different era, allegedly, of Corvette body. I can neither confirm or deny what it was actually made out of. It looks like the body panels were formed over a sawhorse. The lines were that smooth. But this truck looks like it's in 2-wheel drive just because they stripped the guts out of the front planetaries, and it looks like there's like aluminum pie pans or something riveted over the ends just to dust covers. I mean, this. So let's be clear. I like to think of us as a overwhelmingly positive monster truck program, right? Like, even if we poke a little fun at ourselves or other people, we're for the betterment of the sport overall and its history. But this guy would not be getting called out by us now for the second time. This might be the only time Chris Roy has won something twice. Is the bag from Dick's treatment. But it's like he heard the bag crinkling and just couldn't come running to his keyboard fast enough. His keyboard, to borrow a line from the Grand Tour, it probably has the letters A, N, and L wore off on it.
Have you noticed this is his keyboard, Mr. Wilmers? Look at the A, worn down, the N, and the L.
Maybe he's been emailing his friend Alan a lot.
Yeah. But or maybe just ASS, I don't know, but the guy comes on and just is slagging this poor kid off, and he's slagging everybody else off, and it's the internet monster truck forum equivalent of getting drunk before going to the bar. Not getting drunk at the bar, pre-gaming, getting housed, going into an otherwise peaceful bar where there's much conviviality and glee and other good times happening, and then just breaking a bottle over some guy's forehead for no fucking...
That's pretty much it.
And then trying to understand for hours on end why the rest of the patrons beat you about the face and neck with their bottles of beer. Staggers the mind.
Well, one thing that I've noticed about the Rat Attack truck, I saw that in Vegas. It was there for a pit party one year at the World Finals, and I noticed how far back the seat was. Like, the seat is behind the cradle. So for Matt, what you're saying, for what he's doing with that thing and doing that stuff on the nose, and the way he's driving that truck, that's not a natural way to drive a monster truck. So for what he's doing and for what he has, that is outstanding. And that truck always ran solid. Even when Sam had it, it always ran and ran and ran. But like I said, the driver position, makes it when you're sitting behind the transfer case is basically where he's sitting for the most part.
Yeah.
So to do what he's doing that far back is pretty impressive.
What was the show Trading Spouses? Where like two distinctly different households would swap a parental member.
Yes.
We need to do that with Jacob and with Dave Rapich. So Rap Attack and Rat Attack
Yes.
need to swap drivers. So Jacob's going to go from driving in the back seat all the way to driving the monster truck version of a cat. Not since Destroyer 1 has a monster truck driver sat so close to the front axle, I don't think, as Rap Attack. And then we need to take Dave Rapich and put him in the trunk of Rat Attack and just let those guys go have at it for an afternoon in Mansfield and see how it shakes out.
In the trunk of Rat Attack, yeah.
Yeah, where there should be some sort of spare tire and jack in a real Corvette. That's where Jacob. And we're not bagging on either of these guys. I'm just saying that would be
no.
very, very. I mean, we have the overbite truck and then we have the laid back cruiser. I want to see them swap spots. Oh man. Well, anyways, congratulations, Chris Roy, which are words that I don't think have ever been said on a microphone before. You have entered the bag from Dick's twice. So don't go for the three-peat. All right. Don't be like Michael Jordan and Tyler Reddick and go for the three-peat. Just ignore the crinkling the next time you hear the paper bag. But oh man, well that was an entertaining way certainly to start our season, boys. We're, as everybody at home listening right now can tell, we rolled into this like we always do, without much of a sense of structure, purpose, or show format. But we've found that's the magic sauce to our what's that new fucking McDonald's say? The McArch or whatever it's called.
The Big Arch.
The Big Arch. Yeah, well, that's our Big Arch
And,
sauce.
Kyle, if I know you're fond of saying this, so I'm going to steal it from you.
Yeah.
If they didn't like it, we can refund their membership dues.
Yeah, we'll gladly refund your OSMT dues. No, hell yeah. But I think we've got a great season ahead of us, and we're going to try and stick to our timeline as best we can. Just kind of keep regular stuff pounding in there for you guys. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, and I'm hesitant to mention any more of what we're going to talk about in future episodes, because then you'll get the three of us on a whole nother tangent, and then we'll just be rocking and rolling, even further from there. But before we split, do you guys have anything else you were hoping to add here in season 3 now? Holy shit, guys! Like, that's cool.
Yes. I think just looking forward to another season. Like you said, that's wild that it's season 3 already of something that we talked about for a long time doing. And just looking back on some of those interviews we've done, which we just reminisced about, I'm looking forward to people hearing it, and hopefully everyone will enjoy it as much as we did. I know they will, because we're all fans, and I know all of us here really love just sitting and listening to some of them guys talk about some of these connections and stories that just blew your mind away, but you had no clue that any of it was going on. So I'm excited to get this season going.
No, totally. Well, yeah, I think that's about all I've got for this evening. I was trying to think if there was anything else I was intending. Oh, you know what, Frank? I did want to come back and touch on one thing. If Monster Trucks Limited ever wants to become Monster Trucks Unlimited, and you guys want to put a couple trucks together and let Looker and I guest drive a couple shows with you, we'll pop out there for that Idaho deal. We're not afraid of that.
It goes from 2 to 6 in 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll drive the ride truck if that's what we have to do, as long as we get to drive during the show. I am requesting a Corvette shaped body, though. Just winning the Pac Northwest, you might as well drive a Corvette. I think touching on the Hot Wheels thing one more time, though, I really think that this is an idea. What it was, the parent company called Raycom, is that what it's called, right? I
believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, they really need to consider sort of reaching out to the older gentlemen in the audience through you as their vessel, and break the show up a little bit with a little bit of levity, and be like, ladies and gentlemen, coming out on the floor right now, we are going to introduce the driver of Mega Rex, but he's a mega fan of Concourse Concessions. So tonight, in front of you live right now, Frank Kreml, driver of Mega Rex, is going to review your arena's best concession item. And then next thing you know, you get like the triple double decker pulled pork nachos with brisket sidecar.
Didn't Hot Wheels do a Wienermobile truck?
In toy form, they did. There could be something
in toy
here.
form, yeah.
There's
As a
there's
toy,
also
so-
a shoe. There's also a shoe.
Yeah, there's also a toilet. There's also a toilet. There's
Yeah.
There's everything you can
Okay.
imagine.
So so you're already doing the show in the dark. We need Hot Wheels After Dark. It's the 9 p.m. show for grown-ups only. There's the
Ooh,
wiener
yeah.
truck, the toilet truck,
It's
the shoe truck, the
3D
bottle opener
3D
truck.
Hooters.
What?
The 3D Hooters body
3D?
truck.
Oh my god. Okay, now bleep. We got to bleed ourselves out. I want to drive the shoe. I'm coming out to put foot to ass tonight. And then
You gotta look
there's
through
the ass-shaped
look through
truck
lace-
parked in the
look through
corner.
laces to drive around.
Oh man. Well, how we got from concession stand reviews to Hot Wheels after dark. Hot Wheels even darker. You can't do that either, I guess. But that
Nope,
would be
that doesn't sound good.
then you just run into things like
Nope.
there's yeah. It's for all the married men out there. Lights off Hot Wheels. So all right. Well, listen, thanks everybody for tuning into our skullduggery and ne'er-do-well attitude here on Bottom Dead Center, Season 3, Episode 1 in the books. Appreciate Matt and Frank joining us as always. And Frank, you've never looked better, never looked clearer. I was starting to worry that you were actually pixelated like a Minecraft character based in previous seasons, but I see you are a fully normalized looking human man, so that's good.
Clear as day, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had no idea what was on your hat for years, and now I see it's the Detroit Tigers emblem. So
yeah.
we're getting there. We're
yeah.
getting there. So, all right. Well, listen, you guys have safe weekends ahead. Myself, I'll already be back by the time you see this, but we're taking off to go to the Pennzoil 400 in Las Vegas again. So that'll be our next stop as a fam. Go have some good time out there with our friends with Penske and Wood Brothers. And I hear the pools might be opening. So if anybody flies low over the Excalibur and thinks they see a beached manatee, don't worry. That's just me, and I won't spill my beer. So y'all have a good night, and we will see you next time here on Bottom Dead Center.